Yes. Okay. So you Max, begin talking to me.
Is there a theme or a topic? Are we going straight onto the how do we embed the democracy within our communities or something? Was that the theme, or am I just talking to you about anything?
You can talk about the theme or whatever is alive with you. So it's kind of free.
Okay.
But if you want to jump right into that, then do it.
Okay, great. Gosh, it feels quite funny when someone goes, just talk at me for 5 minutes. Kind of makes you go, oh God, okay. I think I wanted to do this training tonight because I feel really passionate about all of the thinking in the Future Democracy Hub, and I think it's the most efficient way to bring XR's 3 demands into reality. It's like one stone many birds kind of thing, and that it's one thing, but it brings communities on board who may not go anywhere near XR. It's just
So
crowdsourcing
can I stop
ideas.
there
And
to reflect?
sure, yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you really want to go into this practice because you see the benefits of bringing XR people connecting with each other. Is that correct?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's partly about XR connecting with each other, but also about wider communities who aren't anything to do with XR. Like a nice way for them to come involved and think about things that matter to them. And I like the humility of XR in it. That these people's assemblies that may be rolled out, they won't necessarily have the XR branding. You know, XR can be almost put to one side, and this will be like a service that we offer to citizens in order to, empower people to everywhere to come up with solutions to the climate crisis.
Right. So you also want to bring this into all people, and especially when communicating with people who don't are not in XR, and sorry, I lost
No, that's it.
it there. Was that correct?
Yeah. No, you're definitely summing it up. And I think as well, I like how dynamic it could be. Like it could almost, this initiative could become an action if, let's say, you took over a council offices. And then just held an impromptu people's assembly where you're not supposed to, but maybe the police would be called, maybe you'd all be wearing funny outfits, or maybe you chain yourselves to the floor whilst you did it. It can be kind of bent any which way according to the talents or the interests of the people in your community in whatever way that they'd like to do it. So I think that sounds really exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing, I know, just where people go with it.
Yeah. So I'm hearing a lot of excitement about this process and what you can actually do with it, and you gave a few examples that sounded
Yeah, definitely. And then I don't know how far into the 5 minutes we are, but I feel like I've got one more point if there's time for that. 2 more minutes, okay.
You don't have to rush it through. We have time.
Okay, great. It's not a huge point, but I like, one of the things I really like about it is the radical inclusivity. I'm a social worker by background. Like, I work with families and a lot of disenfranchised people, usually going through lots of difficult things. And I'd love to take this to say organizations formed of care leavers, for instance, and maybe inviting any of them to train up to facilitate people's assemblies. I think if you chose your facilitators out of like pools of people who maybe were like the most marginalized or whatever, that could be, it ties in with that XR demand of actively mitigating for power as well, like deliberately trying to turn traditional structures on their heads to recreate a completely different kind of society that's more fair.
Right. So I don't understand if you meant taking the empathy process into bringing it into more underprivileged people, or do you mean in oh no, this time, do you mean in only in XR?
No, I think and beyond XR as well. Like, say you could link up with single parent groups or people who spent time in the care system as children, and say, like, you know, we need people to be powerful and to deliver, you know, facilitate meetings, you know, local democracy, come and get involved.
Right,
yeah, which could be a really great thing.
So you want to bring this into all sorts of groups where it really needed. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the right, yeah.
Okay. Do you feel heard?
Yeah, I do. No, thank you.
Great. So, Liz?
Okay, hi.
So remember that you can stop me if you want to do a reflection if I'm talking too much. I just want to say that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, first of all, I just want to say that my pants are all sweaty because I was really nervous about facilitating this, because I've joined in for groups for several months, but I've never facilitated. So, and it was really like, can you do this? Okay. So I'm feeling kind of sweaty now.
So, okay, so I'll say back to you what I just heard was that your pants are all wet and you're feeling sweaty because because you were so nervous about facilitating. You've got, it sounds like you have done these empathy circles before. You've attended them a few times, right?
Yeah.
But this is the first time you've been asked to facilitate.
Yes.
And it was like, will you do this? Oh yeah, okay, sure. Just jump on it and do it. Exactly. Don't let anyone see you sweat. Okay.
You can't see it, but I can feel it. Okay, so going into the topic here, the thing that I'm very passionate about, that I'm actually lacking, that wasn't mentioned with what was his name? I don't remember. The guy who talked. Paul. You're right. I think that to build a real democratic society, we need to be trauma informed, because as I see it, a lot of people are traumatized. So I'll stop there.
Yes, that you're. One thing the thing you're most passionate about, and one thing that you see lacking in the conversation, is well, how to hear. I don't remember exactly the words you said. Something about how to hear the about how to handle the trauma.
Yes.
Know that, to realize that we've been through trauma and we need to process that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Trauma informed, that was the word.
Trauma informed, right. Yeah. Because I believe that this affects the whole society. And I also believe that traumatized people don't have the capacity to care for the planet. We have to have that kind of capacity within ourselves to actually be able to care. Yeah, I'll stop there. Yeah,
you said a point before that was very important that I just spaced on, because the most important thing is, damn, I'm just totally spacing on this. This is hard. I totally understood what you said, and I agree with you. And it's like, okay, what did you say? Oh, we drink some water. Okay. Can I ask you to please repeat that? I'm sorry. My brain isn't working.
What I believe is that trauma is sort of infectious. Infectious, is that the right word? Through all society, and we have to be able to have the capacity. And if we're traumatized, we don't have that capacity to care.
Okay.
For the world. Yeah.
So the trauma is infectious all the way through society, throughout society, and those of us who are traumatized don't have the capacity to care, to know how, to care for the planet, basically.
Yes. And that goes also for the environment. I think a lot of people need to clean up within themselves to be able to actually see what's happening in the world. That's just an idea that I have about this, because so many people don't care. So yeah, you can reflect that. And
Right, so what you're saying then is that traumatized people simply don't have the capacity to care, and they're not seeing the things that need to be cared about, basically?
Yes.
And they need to wake up or something. Okay,
yeah,
got it.
thank you. I feel heard.
Oh, good.
So now you choose a person.
Oh, okay. So I will choose you, and again, your name was what? Max, did you say?
Max, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so then I get to talk? So I am really, I'm all about the collaborative inquiry. And I see that happening right here in this little town with other organizations, Sunrise and Fridays for Future, and then our XR group, and Socialist Democrats, I think, over on campus. So we kind of like, somebody will come up with an action, and then the rest of us will kind of join them. So we're not like all XR. We're just a bunch of radicals out there trying to say something. So now there's this little group starting that wants to do some anti-war stuff, and they aren't XR at all. And I'm sorry, I should stop.
Oh no, I was hanging on your every word then. That sounded really, really interesting. It sounds like people from wearing different under different banners all coming together to all support each other in a kind of like broad coalition of that XR kind of movement of movements. Things really important. And you listed a few organizations, and then you were about to start talking about some new ones who come in with a stop the war thing. Tell us more. That sounded great.
Yeah, so there's still the same folks. We're all, it's not a very large town here, and we're mostly the kind of the same people in these different groups. Now a new little group has formed to just focus on anti-war. And one thing I'll say is that one of the leaders of that group has a problem with the way XR organizes. So I'm like trying to figure out what that means. So I have to communicate and find out what.
You sound very curious about the possibilities of what that might mean. You've gone into it with your collaborative inquiry kind of hat on. It sounds like in your town that's like the common way of working. You all kind of support each other's things, but now with this Stop the War newer group that's come about, you're sensing that there might be a little bit to discover about what's anti-XR there, and just kind of like negotiate that carefully, perhaps. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's and now it's feeling like there's some tension there and judgment. It's kind of like it feels like high school or small town stuff. So it gets into like, you know, personalities and things, and I'm feeling kind of confused right now about all of it. So yeah.
That can be a bit of I don't know, regret perhaps, but you don't sound entirely hopeless about it though. You kind of sound like you've got a bit of distance from it, and you're looking to see just how the dynamics of the personalities might play out. But you're quite open and non-judgmental. You sound.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel a lot of support from the larger XR community. Otherwise, I would have left by now. Yeah, yeah. So I call Denver XR for support quite often because they have a lot of wisdom there.
Oh, that's great that you feel supported and you've got places that you can go and it's sort of tried and tested. People have got your back and given you enough sort of like resilience and energy to cope with the facts on the ground or whatever kind of challenges might be arising. Sounds like you've got a great thing in your town. All of these people and who all want broadly similar things and are all getting off the backside to doing something about it. So on the whole, maybe more positive than. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Thank you for pointing that out. I get caught up in the dynamics, and it's actually all about passion. People care. And we're going to get into it sometimes. Yeah. So.
Ooh. Does that feel like a natural ending? Do you feel heard, or is there anything else that you'd like to share?
No, I'm good with that. I feel heard. Thank you very much.
Cool.
That was cool. So now what are we supposed to do?
So now
I'm not sure.
Max, you can choose. Do you hear me? Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, do we keep going round?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can choose Liz again. It's good when we try to. Well, we're only 3, so do whatever you want, whoever you want to talk to.
Okay. I'm not quite sure what to talk about. To be honest.
Who are you speaking to? Who is your listener? Choose one listener.
Okay, Liz, I'll go for you just to change it up from last time, and I will talk about. Here's something that might be helpful just to talk about. Some of the the XR thing about no blame and no shame. So I'm not a really big believer in that. So sometimes I feel it can get a bit hard to live by that. I mean, I keep any feelings that of negativity about, as I'm not perfect, but I think this is a real brain dump. Like, please bear with me. Sometimes when I've got friends who are just booking more holidays and flights, there is a bit of me that wants to say, what are you doing? I don't say that, and I never would say that, because I don't think it would be a good thing for them to hear, and I don't think it would inspire them to stop. But I feel a bit conflicted by, on one hand, this emergency is so urgent, and yet on another hand, reflect that.
Yeah. So I was going to end your sentence with the other hand. People are acting like business as usual. Seems like. So yeah, it's hard to see people doing holidays and taking all these plane flights at the same time when they supposedly know what's going on, and you want to say, what are you doing? I think it's something you said before that was very important too. My short-term memory is not working very well today. This is good practice.
Oh no, I think you got most of the gist of it. I guess as well. I mean, everyone's on their own individual journey with it, aren't they? But I guess when It's hard to think about what might ramp up that urgency for some people. Like if everyone's got a key that will make them go, oh yeah, right, no, I really do need to change or do something differently. And everyone's key is different, but sometimes, especially with your loved ones and people who you care about, you kind of really want to find what their key is and kind of bring them with you. I mean, I've been so, some of my friends I have said, yeah, they really appreciate the fact I'm very like non-judgy and all, which is great, and I wouldn't change that. But sometimes I wish they found me a bit more hard work. But I don't know, that probably wouldn't be helpful.
So yeah, I'm hearing that it's hard. It's kind of a quandary to be in, how to reach people and yet not have them be defensive. I'm kind of like maybe short-circuiting your words here a lot. But like you say, like each person has their own different way of dealing with priorities and urgencies, and yet we each have a key that will open that awareness, or the ability to act, or ability to hear you, maybe what you're trying to say. Even though people say you're non-judgmental, it feels like you're really trying to get through a little bit more than you are.
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, like little things are happening. Like some friends I go on holiday with, we've now decided to just go to Ireland, which is right next to England, rather than like the usual like long haul somewhere. Which is, so I missed out on the Mexico trip this year. I was like, I'm not going to go. But so that next time round, we're doing something that we can get to without flying, which is cool. I don't think we would be doing that if it wasn't for all the climate emergency and stuff. So, and some things are sticking, which is cool.
So within your circle of friends, that you're noticing a big awareness, like you missed out on a trip to Mexico, or you didn't want to go anyway because of that. That sounds like a carbon footprint. But so now they've all decided as a group that to travel somewhere closer, like Ireland, and that feels like maybe a shift, something cool. Maybe other groups are doing the same thing that you can't see. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I hope so. But yeah, no, I just felt like sharing some of those uncomfortable feelings in this empathy circle with just two of you as well. It doesn't feel too exposing either. So I thought it might be a good forum to kind of put some of that uncomfortable stuff out there and share thoughts that maybe I wouldn't share with people who I'm particularly close to, because I wouldn't want to make them feel judged. So thank you.
So this forum seems, especially when it's a small group of us, seems like it could be a safe place to share some of these uncomfortable things that we can't talk to people we know about. Right? Yeah. I like that.
Oh, bang on timing. Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Sophia, is it your turn now? Or Liz, is it you? I can't remember.
It's Liz's turn to choose.
Okay, well, I'll choose Sofia, because I haven't heard from you for a while here.
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay, so now what do I talk about? Okay, I'll talk about my personal reason for joining XR. I don't usually like to join things much. I'm not really a person who goes out there and does a lot of actions. I'm more the behind the scenes kind of person. I like to take pictures or write articles or do social media or something. But with XR, it was different. So I'll say that for now.
Yeah, so you're not the kind of person who likes to join things that does this kind of active actions. You're more the kind of sitting in the back front. Is that how we say it?
Yeah.
You like to write articles and cheer on in silence.
Yeah. So, but this I felt like it was XR was finally doing what I've been envisioning since like 4th grade, since I was like 8 years old, you know? Like, how come people aren't listening and communicating this stuff? What's going on? And I could see things so clearly, and nothing changed, you know? I was so frustrated. So, I said, I don't know.
So you with XR, you saw, you found that is a group that you really wanted to join because they seem to have the kind of view that you have on the world that you saw as a very small child, and they're kind of living that. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I'd like to say something about the trauma piece. I've been really traumatized. Yeah. And I vowed to never close my heart, no matter what, because my soul's mission here on the planet is to be an ally to the animals. So I can't do that if I close down my heart and my empathy. Right. So even though I've been traumatized, I still am aware and really, I'm here to do the work.
Yeah. So you want to talk about the trauma piece that I brought up, and you mentioned that you have been traumatized, and a very clear decision that you have made is that you're not going to close off your heart, because that means that you don't care about animals if you're close your heart. Is that correct?
That's it's not that I don't care about them, it's that I wouldn't be able to be there for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
you wouldn't, yeah, right. So it's not that you don't care about them, it's about you wouldn't be able to be there.
Yeah, well, if you don't have any empathy, then you're not able to do what's needed. You can't show up and help a hurt or injured animal, or, you know.
Yeah.
If you don't know what, you can't feel what they feel, you don't know what to do. You don't know how to communicate with them. If you're all shut down yourself to what's going on.
Yeah, so if you don't, if you can't feel empathy for feel what the pain of the animals, how can you help them? That is the question that you're asking, and you're finding that that it sounds like that is the kind of empathy that you want to bring in to the world.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. We need to have that empathy for ourselves to heal. Also, we need to support each other to do that.
Yeah. So you were saying that we also need to have that empathy for ourselves to be able to heal. Yeah.
And to like this, to support each other in it.
And support each other, right? Yeah.
Well, thank you. I feel heard.
Okay, so I'll choose next then. Yeah, I was very touched by Liz's talk here and the conversation. I just feel that I really liked what Paul said about trust, because there is something about trust that heals people. heals societies. I don't think we have a lot of trust in societies and political figures, and yeah, that's an issue.
So some things have stayed with you tonight, like what Liz was saying touched you, and Paul's words about trust have stayed with you too, and it sounds like you can sense a lack of that in society, like you feel that deficit.
Right, and also what I feel personally is that as you were talking about, actually, Max, is that sense of that you can't talk about anything with everyone because they are gonna get hurt by it. And I think that if you have that sense of trust that the person that you're talking to is really gonna listen to you and not judge you for it, I think that is so important also in our personal relationships.
So that sense of being able to openly share something with someone and have faith in that, like to trust it. And you were noticing how I'd shared that like you can't share everything with everyone. There's not always like the right type of trust there in each dynamic between people to be able to do that, because you don't want to hurt people with some things that maybe are in your mind, like they're not for sharing with everybody.
Right, and I don't mean that in a judgy way towards you. It's,
no.
Yeah, it's just a reflection that I made, that since I learned these empathies, joined in these empathy circles, I try to incorporate this kind of empathic listening with all my personal relationships. So if I need to bring something up, I say them to, can you listen empathically to me now? And then I share, and then I say, so how do you feel about this? And then they share, and I listen empathically, and it's very connecting to do that. And I think it takes this kind of trust that the person is really gonna hear you and not judge you for it. Sorry, maybe I talked for too long.
Oh no, that's okay. That was a really interesting how you described using some of the ideas from these empathy circles in your conversations with people in your personal relationships. Sort of opening up some of that trust by requesting, can you listen empathically to me now, and creating that space, and then being heard by them, and then vice versa.
Yeah.
Oh,
And that's also something that I want to see in as society as a whole, even with politicians. Like, I really need to be heard now. Can you imagine seeing something like that with politicians? It would be, yeah. Everybody's nodding their head. But it would be so awesome to see that they role modeling how to listen to each other.
That's an incredible aim. What a vision! If just the fact that it seemed so ridiculous when you said it, and like we all smiled, because isn't that sad that imagining you were describing how you're talking to people personally, using this empathy and trust building, and then why shouldn't that be picked up and put into the conversations that politicians have, and they can model that for everybody else? Well, it shouldn't be so ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry because the noise on this bell is so loud. But thank you. I feel heard.
Cool. Good.
So now it's your turn, Max.
Okay, I'll talk to you this time, and I will talk about.
Who is you? Is that me?
Sorry, I mean you just because you were the bigger person on my screen. Sorry, Sophia, you over there, that one.
Okay.
Zoom etiquette. Sorry, I do forget it sometimes. Oh hell, I don't know what else to talk about now. What else is coming to mind? Oh, I don't know. My mind's gone really blank. You know, nothing obvious is coming to mind to share. Have you got something in mind, Liz or Sophia, that you want to have a go at talking just while I wait for some inspiration?
Well, I would like to ask a question, but I'm not sure I can talk about it. What?
No, questions are not allowed in this format. But you can ask a question when it's your turn to be heard, and then I can reflect that, and if the person wants to answer when it's their time to be listened to, they can answer to it.
Okay, sure.
So, Liz, do you want to talk again?
Well, that was, yeah, that's what I was confused. I thought it was, anyway. So I would like to ask this question. What is the
we're doing it like this. Choose a person now.
Okay.
Talk to.
I will choose you, Sophia.
Okay, you choose me, and then
Okay.
you ask the question, and I'll repeat it back, and then I'm guessing that it's towards Max, and then she'll answer it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and no, she's gonna answer it when it's her turn to talk. And
I see.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's just see what happens.
Yes.
I have no idea where I'm going with this. So I have not read these particular principles in detail. So I don't understand exactly what is meant by the feminization of democracy.
Okay. You don't know exactly what it's meant by feminized democracy.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the principles that's listed in the empathy circle.
Yeah.
So my own personal experience coming as a feminist, I do see that there's energy opening up to for the feminine to become empowered and more in balance with the masculine.
So you're seeing, as a feminist, as you describe yourself, that there is some feminine energy arising. Is that correct? That is actually empowering us to. I'm not sure I understood that.
I see there's an energy there's a shift where the feminine is becoming more empowered and becoming more in balance with the masculine energy that's been ruling patriarchy up till now.
Right. So you're seeing this kind of balance between feminine and masculine energy, or just the feminine and the masculine?
Starting to come back into balance. We're starting, the feminine side of us is starting to become more empowered.
Okay. Yeah, the feminine side of us. All right. It's becoming more empowered. Okay.
Yeah, in general. And I see that causing a backlash among the powers that be. So I see that as what's happening now. Yeah.
you're seeing that it's a backlash towards the masculine.
No, I see that as the female energy comes more into power, that we face more of a backlash. You know, and that helps me understand. It helps to explain sometimes what's happening and why such intense reactions, you know, from idiots in government to common sense, to things that women value, like life and sustenance and sustainability, you know.
So what I'm hearing you say is that this feminine power is rising, but it sort of gets not a defense, but I'm looking for a word. It's been fought with, and that's creating a backlash. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like, you know, history repeating itself, in that there is a new, more empowered energy, I think, happening here. And we aren't necessarily seeing it very clearly because it's just tiny little pockets of us so far. It's all very, very localized, hyper localized sometimes. There's a bunch of little groups all over the place doing all this work together.
You're saying that it's not visual in kind of the mainstream population, but you're seeing it happening on a more local groups, and
yes,
are happening, and it's not about repeating the history. It seems to be something new to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I see people. I'm 63, and I see my friends who are 24 figuring out how to create a new economy to work around the one we have to deal with. You know.
You can finish your sentence.
Well, yeah, they're just creating a whole different kind of more sustainable way of living and building community. Yeah.
Right. So you're seeing 24-year-olds, your friends, creating this kind of new way of living on this planet.
Yeah, it's cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll choose Liz again, and probably she will have more to say when it's her turn. Are you listening?
Yes.
No, I meant Max. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Okay, so I think that this is a very interesting topic. I'm glad that you brought it up, Liz. As I see the feminization of, I don't remember what he said now, our society, as I see that, is that also on a sort of like emotional level, what I see in society is that people are more willing to be authentic, and because they feel safe showing their vulnerabilities and talking about their emotions. I think that has been a very taboo subject. I don't know for how long, but I'm guessing for thousands of years. So that's how I interpret that. Okay, I'll stop.
Sounds like you've noticed a shift in society, maybe an increase in the extent to which people will open up about their feelings now. become more vulnerable. It's a topic that interests you. Yeah. Anything I've missed?
And I relate that very much to empathy. Being in touch with your emotions, and being in touch with your emotions also makes you more empathic. You can actually have the experience of knowing what somebody else is going through. And and just watching sort of like Edwin, a man, bringing this forward into it's just very hopeful to me, because men are not supposed to be empathic.
It's inspiring to you to see a man champion this more, traditionally feminine way of working, is, what you identified in your last comment, about, for such a long time, maybe thousands of years, people haven't really worked in that way, and now you're seeing this more empathic way of relating, made into a bigger, more prominent way of being.
Yeah, exactly. And this way of relating, I think, is very feminized, actually.
You look like you're thinking really hard there. Wow, think out loud.
No, I'm just wondering if I have something more to say about this, but I think what the feminine energy brings into the world is just empathy, as I see it. I think we have lived in a very unempathic culture for a very long time.
So you're linking together the feminine and with the empathic, and looking at, so like how that hasn't really been expressed in the culture that we've had for some time, and now you're seeing a shift in that, and it sounds like the kind of shift that you want to see more of as well.
Right. And that's what I also see, this thing that Liz talked about, women bringing forward this kind of new way of thinking, and this new kind of way of living in the world. I'm hoping that most of them have this kind of empathic thinking when they try to bring this forward.
And empathy is an important thing to you. Do you want to see it kind of embedded in all of these new ways of working or running society?
Yeah. Thank you.
Good timing. Do you guys think, just a suggestion, I feel like we've all had got a few good practices at this now, and I don't know about you guys, but I think I feel like fairly confident with the setup now. I don't think we're going back into the main room for like another 10 minutes or so. We could just have a chat, like just a conversation about that femininity thing that he was talking about. What do you think?
I think we should stick to the format here. I'm not sure about leaving the format. We can keep on talking about this subject. Oh no, that's my alarm. But I think we should stick to empathy, the empathic setting.
I guess because one thing, we've had quite a long time and we're such a small group. I think the time that we were allotted was kind of designed for groups of 5 rather than 3.
I'm listening.
I don't know. Well, what do you both think?
I can do empathy with you about your frustration about not being able.
So you listen to me talk about how annoyed I am we can't have a conversation.
Yeah.
um, okay.
Okay, shoot.
Oh well, I don't want to keep it. Yeah, it was just a suggestion. I don't know. I think I'm just quite intrigued. I feel quite intrigued by other thoughts you guys might have, and I just wondered if there might be more of a synergy in like sharing comments in a more conversational kind of gambit rather than kind of summarizing the point that we're saying. Because I'm more intrigued in your points of view rather than I am in like listening to myself talk and be affirmed, because I've had that like a lot now and it almost feels a bit self-indulgent. You know what I mean?
Right. So what you're saying is that you're not, you don't want to talk so much? Is that what you're saying? You don't, you more want to more listen to us now?
Yeah.
Can I make is it that you feel like you don't have that you're taking up too much space with being listened to?
No, I don't think so. I think I feel very listened to now, and I feel like I've almost dragged you into having a conversation, even though you didn't want one, because that was because you've asked me a question there. I guess it's like because that the idea, the femininity thing. I feel like we were all you were sort of skirting around kind of what I imagine Paul meant by it, but I imagine also that we would all struggle to define it precisely in a succinct way. So I think we've all got a bit of a sense of what it means, but in terms of actually being able to put our finger on it, that maybe seems like we're not quite there yet. I wonder if the three of us tried to come up with a definition of what he means. I wonder what we would come up with. I mean, perhaps we won't have space to do that here, but yeah.
Okay, so you did not agree with my guess there, and that you don't feel like you don't have space. But what I heard you say later on was that what you hear from us is that we don't have a clear definition about what feminized, what was it he called it? Feminized democracy. Was that? Yeah. You don't and you would like, is it that you would like to talk about that and pinpoint it, or am I understanding you correctly?
Yeah, you are. It was so yeah. Just not that I've got my heart set on having a definition, but I just wondered if it, because I'm quite intrigued by the concept and by what he might mean and by our interpretations of what he might mean. So it's more just a kind of they're like an intellectual fun, really. Just sort of imagining what he could have meant by it. I do think both of you were like on point. That's the kind of things that I would have guessed as well. But yeah, it's sad. It still feels like a bit of a fluffy kind of concept in my mind.
Right. So you felt a little triggered about him using those words. Is that what I'm hearing? And you felt that me and Liz made the kind of assumptions that you would make also.
Yeah, I think so. I think what it brought up in your minds is similar to what I think I would have said as well. I don't know about being triggered by his use of it. It was more kind of inspired to find out more or get a deeper understanding of what he might mean. Because I don't know, I've seen quite a few YouTube videos from Gail Bradbrook and some other XR people talking about the patriarchy, and like moving away from a patriarchal society comprised of sort of defined by scarcity and sort of not being enough, into one that isn't that. Their use of the word patriarchy was a really new one to me. I'd never kind of thought of it before as meaning something a lot broader than the traditional. So I'm talking loads now. All breakout rooms will close in a minute.
Yes.
Or if you can summarize everything I've just said in that.
I'll do a reflection on that. Yeah, so what you were saying is that you've heard the concept of patriarchy being used in oh shoot, being used in XRs, and that's a kind of wasn't kind of new concept for you also. So you're just being really curious about what he meant by that, what Paul was meant by that.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a short recap.
That's good.
Okay, are you feeling ready?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Lovely to meet you both.
Thank you, Mark.
Going through getting feedback. Bill, would you be willing to do the timekeeping on this? I think we'll do about 45 seconds. Maybe, how many people do you have? About 30. So.
Ouch.
Okay, everybody's coming back. And welcome back, everyone. Is all the groups back? No, still more people, more groups coming. Yeah, I think that's everyone. So welcome back. So this was a shorter empathy circle. Usually we like to go for, close to 2 hours and have smaller groups because usually in the first hour, you're kind of getting familiar with the practice. You're kind of settling into it, kind of overcoming anxieties about, doing it well. And then in the second hour, you get more comfortable. It really starts going deeper. So this is a bit more of just a taste of the process, a little introduction, and hopefully come back next time, and you'll have a little bit of background with the process and you'll be able to step into it a little faster. So we're going to go through and just sort of harvest the feedback on kind of what did you get out of the circle, in terms of just a sort of a synopsis for 45 seconds, like, what are your takeaways? What were sort of the main points, as well as maybe what steps do you want to do? So we'll just go through, and perhaps I could just model it if you're taking time, Bill.
Yeah. I got it. And
yeah, so I really enjoyed this circle because it's, it starts off a little, like I was saying, a little people getting familiar with it. But slowly we really started sinking into it. And, questions came up about, wanting clarity about what we're doing, what the process is, or how to create this facilitate the democracy hub. And so all those questions started coming up, and then slowly we started building on each other's ideas, and then we could just sort of feel that something was starting to emerge. And so in terms of next steps for me, I'm going to be continuing to work on our empathy circles, promoting it and getting more people trained. So that's my 45 seconds. So Bill, do you want to call on people and just...
Okay, I'll go. Okay, Rebecca.
Hi, thank you so much. This was my first ever empathy circle, and I'm blown away by the work involved in active listening and reflecting. Really impressed by that, by the flow of ideas and the connectedness of the thinking and sharing. And I learned a new term, conflict resilience, which I think is wonderful, and I want to take this concept to my local transition group. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Rebecca. Lou?
I really enjoyed getting to meet 3 new people. And I think I learned, I just got a really good review of kind of the benefits of empathy circle practice in terms of what happens when things slow down and people really take time to hear each other. And do the work of reflecting back what they understand, and and how it can be transformational both for the listener and for the speaker.
Okay, Joe. You're muted, Joe. There you go.
There was a discussion about confluence and integration with the community as a kind of mechanism. There was also a discussion about angers and frustrations, angers towards democracy or the what we have, and angers in terms of communication. So what we said is going to happen in comparison to what does happen, and a way of overcoming angers and assumptions in terms of the empathy circle is a better format for discussion. So we find that people can change their ideas or change their assumptions more easily in an empathy circle by sharing, rather than, say, in an argumentative situation, people are less open to doing that. So we also think that it's about people exploring themselves, becoming.
Okay, great. I'm experiencing a little bit of dissonance here, so if I cut you off, I don't mean to. Just please correct me. Peter.
So I really enjoyed that. It was nice to meet a bunch of different people and have some really interesting conversations. Felt very warm and you know, and lots of really good listening. I think for me, there's stuff particularly around language that I want to take on board, and recognizing. It's partly because I'm involved in the whole future democracy a bit of work, and that we need perhaps to go through the website and things and just look at things like that and get someone from outside to really see what's likely to be preventing people from being engaged. So particularly, I take away stuff around language.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sure. Peter Anderson. Sorry. Sorry.
Trust. I don't know what to say, so I'm going to pass. You're muted.
I'm muted. I'm sorry. Sean.
Yeah, it was good to get some practice at reflecting. It's a technique that I do use in my work, but I don't use it well enough because I talk too much. So yeah, it's always good to get some practice doing that. And I'm really excited at the idea of. I thought the empathy circle was really good, and I want to really quite quickly take it to the local group now and get them practicing it. And Art, who was in the circle with me, had a memory of watching somebody do some really good effective de-escalation in a situation that he was in. And I think that, you know, it is a skill. Listening is a skill that's going to help with de-escalation, so everything kind of connects and reinforces each other, I think.
Great. Okay. And I'm sorry if it goes off and you want to complete your sentence, please do. I don't mean to. Okay. Allison. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, it's a bit difficult finding the mute button. It was a lovely experience. It's amazing how quickly you begin to get a feeling for the other people in a group when people are listening properly, and you have you know that you're going to be heard. It's just fantastic. And I think in terms of, there was a lot of really valuable content as well. The language point already mentioned, but also just the need to help people who are activists in XR to understand what all this democracy stuff is about. You know, what is all this empathy circle stuff about? And finally, I feel really relieved. I feel a wonderful sense of relief at having actually experienced an empathy circle. So now I feel I can speak about it with others.
Great. Dita?
Thank you. I feel it was very beautiful, as people have said. It's just a very powerful tool, I think, to just be listened and to have the time and to listen particularly as well. And my homework will be to get more savvy with technology, because I feel quite yeah, it's my first something like this with a Zoom meeting, and it's quite strange, but it was beautiful. So for me, it's always like you enter into a new land when the circle starts, and now we will go back to wherever we are, and I'm gonna miss you.
Thank you. Okay, Debbie.
Hi. I loved the experience of being listened to and being in an empathy circle. It's the first time I have been in like MVC groups and things, but it's great to actually see that you can do it with this technology and still have a sense of warmth towards the people that you're connecting with, even though you're not physically present. And the content was brilliant in terms of, for me, getting my head around more how the relationship between a longer term thing like a facilitation network and direct action can be closer together. We have an action planning meeting next week, so I'm going to take Edwin's idea of doing an empathy cafe outside the National Assembly of Wales will be my proposal.
Great. Okay. Sofia.
Am I unmuted?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you.
It was actually a very challenging for me. We had a great conversation. We talked about several things that I felt were important. And then actually one participant wanted to go out of the empathic structure and talk like we usually do. And what happened was that I told her that, okay, so you can talk about the frustration to me about being in the empathic circle and not being able to do what you want. So I felt good about keeping the structure.
Great, thanks. Carolina?
For me, surprising was finding so many commonalities between us during our circle, and we were talking about changing our habits, but also different projects we participate. And one of the things is that I want to stay in touch with participants of my circle. I want to stay in touch. I want to get email address and to exchange. That's kind of building new relations, new sort of community. So yeah.
Okay.
Something
Great.
happened.
Great. Liz? Liz, there you go.
I felt like it was really awkward and rough at the beginning. And then it felt like we kind of clicked. There was a moment there where it started to click, and we got into a really interesting conversation and forgot about our self-consciousness about remembering what each other was talking about. it just felt like there was a shift there, which is really cool since the three of us don't know each other and we just hit the ground running, and we've never, well, two of us had never done this before. It was a great experience. I think it's a really good mindfulness practice for both, for enhancing both our speaking and our listening skills, because it helped me to stop and say, okay, wait a minute, you know, did I talk too much? Did you hear what I said?
Great. Okay.
And I also wanted to question the structure, and instead of like talking for 5 whole minutes. So anyway, that's all.
Okay, sure. Well, I hope to see you in future circles, and we can do, you know. Andrea.
Yeah, that was, which one, Adrian or Andrea?
Andrea, Southeast England.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's you.
Yeah, so I didn't quite have the mental capacity to talk the whole time. And it took a lot of my memory to do that. It was pretty good, yeah. A lot of the conversations I've been having about the environment have been trying to pitch an idea to someone. So this was quite a different format, I think. And it was good to hear from people in my group and hear a bit more about the empathy circles and some more of different people's experiences. Yeah, it was good.
Okay. Nadia. You're muted, Nadia. We can't hear you. You gotta unmute yourself.
Sorry.
There you go. That's all right.
I found it very nerve-wracking because I became very self-conscious when I was listening, and then when I was talking again. But it was great that I was able to say that to the others and to express that physically. And I see it as a good tool using going forward. If people are being heard, then they're not going to be in conflict so much. So hopefully politically we can, you know, come up with solutions more easily. And it was a couple of people compared it to non-violent NVC groups. It was kind of similar to.
Okay. Now, Adrian.
Yeah, I really liked also this training for me to do the my English, sorry. To facilitate the process. I also recognize that it's for me really painful to get into this structure talking about Extinction Rebellion again, because it was really hard for me, my experiences here in Zurich, Switzerland. I'm also asking myself, how can we get those people to join this process of doing this training of empathy, which need it most? And those are the violent people. So yeah, but I'm thankful for this work. Yeah.
Thank you. Richard.
Yeah, what I find interesting, what came up with me again, is this kind of the subtle difference between empathy circles and kind of classical NVC. And especially this kind of reflecting every sentence. I find it interesting. Kind of, it's two ways that kind of that complement each other, but they are not the same, so to say. Kind of, and that was reminded me in the circle that we are kind of, you know, there is this difference between, oh, this sentence, oh, you hear this sentence, and this kind of sentence by sentence reflecting, and kind of something what I learned with NVC, this kind of different form or so. So it kind of was nice to sense that again, and to also sense that kind of I'm getting more and more used to the empathy circle approach.
Okay, great. And there's a woman just as labeled XR Communities. I'm sorry, I didn't remember your name.
I'm sorry about that. It's so
No
confusing.
problem.
I really like the exercise. I thought the journey of it from the start, where it felt perhaps a little bit forced, but then as you kind of got into it, I found myself sharing some things that I'd struggled to share with friends about my own values changing throughout my kind of XR journey, which was a really nice thing. And then I kind of shared a bit more about what it was like sharing that with strangers, and then the kind of trust in that setting. And then other people kind of picked up that theme when it was their turn to talk as well. So it was nice hearing how we were all sparking things in each other's minds. A bit of delayed gratification in there, because you don't have the back and forth of a conversation. It's maybe less dynamic, but things, you kind of plant seeds and then see how people run with it when it's their turn. No, it was great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I'm getting some feedback that people don't like my choice of, of alarms. There's nothing much I can do about it now. I'm sorry. I'll try to do a bong or maybe something like that, or maybe some Tuvan throat singing, but it'll take a few years. All right. Mila.
Yes, it's my first. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
It's first empathy circle. I would say, well, I was surprised how kind of I could self-emphasize and contain myself and not to worry, because I've been beginner, but to give empathy to a beginner. And also, I've got a couple of things. I might write it down because it's for the if there's a few beginners there, and then I could hear a lot of people not connecting with beginners. I have the answers. I have the answers. I mean, because I have answers for myself. It's beginners we want to,
Okay, thank you. Okay. Eva, how's your throat? Can you give us 45 seconds?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sure.
It's been a day of learning. I am sorry I was not able to join the group, so I guess that brought a little bit more pressure on 3 of my friends in my group. But it's always exciting, even with learning, how I can learn and be a part of it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Diana.
I find it a great technology, especially in international community, especially when somebody speaks not good English as me myself. It works great in such situation.
Great. Thank you. Okay. All right. Ivy? Ivy, can you hear? You're muted. There you
Yes.
go. Okay.
So I had so much, I was very self-conscious because of my technical difficulty. My was on speaker, that it was very echoey, and I think we all had trouble hearing each other, and that just kind of made us have to work harder to listen more, and I think that actually made it better, because it just really hit you over the head that you were really listening. And I was able to confide that I grew up in a very famously judgmental place called New York City. And I've struggled for years with how to be a good listener, because the way that I was taught to communicate was everybody talks at the same time. If you have something you want to say, just go and say it. And it's taken me so long to unlearn that and to take turns and really listen. And this also the empathy circle. We realize that in America there's a huge divide where people feel so judged that we're all separated and we can't talk to each other. And that's why there's so much hate and anger that we're seeing every day. And so it really brought home the importance of learning this facilitation. So I wanted to thank everybody.
Great. Thank you, Ivy. Stephen or Stefan?
Yes, Stephen.
Stephen.
Right. And yes, Ivy and I were in the same group there, and I'm from near Boston, and yes, I grew up in the same kind of family, very fast speakers, and I'm being slow now. So the idea being that active listening was not part of that. You basically spoke when the other person was taking a breath. You spoke to respond, not to understand. And I think active listening in this type of facilitation is the next level. And so the lesson really then is, or the dilemma is, how do you introduce that type of active listening or higher quality dialogue to people who are used to thinking, that it's natural and normal to interrupt each other and just talk all at the same time.
Okay, thanks. Art?
I enjoyed it. I found it very interesting and stimulating, and we talked very easily. I thought your attempts to manage us were good, thank you, and I think it's well worthwhile, certainly.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And I see Carlos.
Hi, thank you. So, well, we had in our group, at the beginning, we didn't have a facilitator, which made the process quite painful to start with, really, because we didn't know what to do. Then we kind of self-facilitated between the three of us. It's been a good exercise in terms of seeing both the process about listening and talking. I have to say that I got a bit frustrated because the conversation went more about what empathy circles are and not about how might we best build an XR facilitator network. And because of the structure of this as being a listener, I couldn't really, I really wanted to push the conversation to go in that direction. I wasn't able. So it's been good to see more process, but I feel I haven't discussed what I want to discuss with this.
Okay. And I think if I've missed anybody, I think I got everybody except myself. Is that it? Anybody else have